This is a beautiful mess. We purchased this boat 4 months ago.
Me and Phil own a boat.
But the renovation hasn't come without its challenges.
And what makes it even more challenging, we've never worked on a boat before, so every single step we take, we have to research it. And now that our boat is completely stripped, it brings us to one of the most important steps, and that is our ballast. If we get that wrong, there's a chance our boat could roll, sink, and become a submarine. And nobody wants that. Well, you might.
It is a very exciting day at the boat because we're having our kitchen designed by MGN. And these ladies are here to help.
But before we give them permission to enter our boat, let's cover some of the comments that you made on the last video, and that is the fact that our floor is already screwed down and we have no ballast. There's a good reason we want to mark out our layout. So let's get it all marked out. And this was just a case of knowing what we wanted in the spaces and making it fit in as small a space as we could possibly get it in. So we started with the bedroom and decided to work our way back from there. After the bedroom come the bathroom, where we need to get a shower, toilet and a basin. These marks here represent our walls, so this area will be the bedroom, this will be the bathroom. We haven't decided exactly where the bits are going, but we know they'll fit. And then when we come through here, this will be the living space and the kitchen. One of the hardest jobs about getting a kitchen on a narrowboat is squeezing everything into such a small space. But lucky for me, that's not my job, that's the job for Roma. So between the three of us, we went back and forth trying to squeeze it into as small a space as we could.
We put the kitchen back,
Yep.
and other part we put here.
So it's going to make it much more usable and a lot more storage.
Yeah.
Let's get it done.
This is the reason it is so important to get someone to design something like this, because originally we only wanted it on one side, but after having a long think and a discussion about it, it turns out we needed to add some cabinets to the opposite side, just so that we had some storage and that we could get a cooker and an oven all in that small little space. And this is the layout that we've chose to go with.
That is the layout finalised. We know roughly the weight of the kitchen and the bathroom, so we can pull the floor up and start doing the ballast.
To pull the floor up is pretty simple, it's just the reverse of when we put it down. So we need to pull all of the screws back out and then take the boards up one at a time and stack them outside. I'll tell you one thing, it comes up a lot quicker than it goes down. Who would have thought it? So while I was taking it up, Brad was outside stacking it in order on the floor. The floor is up, so we've took 2 steps back, perfect. But it does give us a chance to answer a lot of your comments. One of them being weep holes in these. Yes, we are going to be adding those in one moment. 2, the ballast. Clearly we're adding ballast. And 3,
The timber floor. And that is my job. You guys asked in the comments if we were going to protect this timber floor, and the answer is yes. With this tin of no name of nothingness.
and that no name of nothingness is a bitumen paint that we chose to paint the edges and one side of all of the boards. That way they're protected against any moisture in the bilge.
That was a very tedious job, but a job doing nonetheless. I'm going to change these gloves for a fresh set and start to roll it.
It's a job that needed doing nonetheless, not a job nonetheless. Anyway, Brad then gets on with rolling out the nice part. While Brad's putting the black on the boards, I am going to tackle the weep holes, and my plan is I'm going to use a stepper bit to drill through as close as I can to the floor, and then I'm going to use this to file it flat. After some experimentation, it turns out this isn't going to do anything. This isn't very good. We're going to have to use this drill bit to drill it as low as possible, and that's going to be our weep hole. What I'm doing, I'm drilling, but obviously I can't get flat to the bottom, so I'm going as low as I can, through at an angle, and then I'm going from this side back, and that's getting that hole basically on the bottom. You would have seen when we got this boat, every single section was filled with water, and this is one of the reasons why. Without these weep holes, the water can't travel to the lowest point, and now it can.
Before I paint this second half, if you could hit that little subscribe button and the bell, just to make sure you don't miss the beautiful mess completed.
For those of you that are wondering about us only painting one side, because you shouldn't really only seal one side of a sheet of timber because it can bow, we have a plan for the top, so you'll have to wait and see for that later on. All the weep holes are in, so now any condensation that might get under here can make its way down to the lowest point, which is all the way at the other end. Now I'm going to clean. It's so easy just to think, that'll be alright, but I think keeping it as clean as possible is going to make this job last for a very long time. What I'm doing now is I'm just going over it all with a little bit of paint just to cover up all the raw steel that we've created. So these, and obviously our brand new weep holes. Again, another job that you could probably get away with not doing, but we're trying to make this as good as we possibly can, and it's all the little things that extend the life of a boat like ours.
The ballast has arrived from our local building merchants. This is MGN. And if you guys are in Essex or London and you want any building materials, these are the best around.
That's our ballast in the unit. A lot of suggestions about using tile spacers underneath in the bilge to keep these just a little bit up, but we have a similar idea. This is some rubber stripping. We're going to stick that to the bottom of the bilge, and that is going to allow the water to move around. And so we know how many we're going to need. We cut two, one for the length and one for the width, and we use those to plan out how many strips we're going to need total throughout our whole bilge, because this thing needs a lot of ballast. To hold our rubber strips in place, we're going to be putting a little bit of double-sided on the back. That way when we're putting our blocks in, they're not going to be going. Although once the blocks are in place, the chance of these moving are very minimal anyway. All of our strips are ready. The way I'm going to know where to place them, I'm going to mark out the block sizes on these beams with a pencil. So that's going to be our block. And I'll just use that to roughly place our little rubber strips. This is actually one of the reasons the angle iron is in its position as well. We worked out the width of the blocks and made sure they could fit on the inner side, and then we worked out the length so that they could fit on the outer edges. So everything's been thought out in advance, and this is some of the stuff you need to think about if you're ever rebuilding a canal boat. So we start getting all of our rubber strips down, ready to put our ballast in. We've put our rubber strips all the way through the centre, so that's ready for our blocks. You may notice there's a couple missing on the end. That is because we're not going to put blocks here. When any condensation gets underneath and travels through, we're going to be able to inspect it from the top without having blocks in our way. Next job is the outside rubber strips. And these are placed bearing in mind that our blocks are 220mm wide. We're marking for every single section, that way there's rubber strips anywhere you may possibly have a concrete block. This takes quite a long time, it's probably quicker to do the spacers, but again, we're trying to make this as good as we can, and we think this is quite a nice little upgrade, and it's going to minimise any noise that you might have from the blocks moving around on the steel.
That is the bilge, I would say, upgraded. We're basically future-proofing it, so whoever gets this boat if they need to move some concrete blocks around because they've bought new furniture, we're going to make it as easy as possible for the new owners. But the next challenge, and there's no one left around to help, is to get all these concrete blocks inside that boat.
Before we go putting ballast in our boat, remember way back when we pulled out the floor, the steel and the original ballast, put it in a skip and had it weighed, and that came in at 1.7 tonne or 1700 kilograms. So what we've done, we've worked out the metres square of flooring that we've got inside in ply. We know that weighs 13.4 kilograms per metre square. Then we've got our total linear meterage of our angle line, 33.6, and we know that weighs 4.47 kilograms per metre. So I'm going to take that, deduct it from that. That comes in at 1,326 kilograms. We're using concrete blocks and they weigh 18.7 kilograms. So we divide that into that and that gives us 71 blocks. The reason we're using the existing weight is because when we picked this out of the water, the level was very good. Although it was old, it did sit right. So doing this, it should be correct when we put it back. The plan is we're loading the centre section, so this is like its own section. We're going to load that first with blocks completely full, and then we're going to move on to the outside bays where we're actually going to be splitting the blocks up to spread the weight. In theory, these blocks will never get moved again.
So the concrete blocks are very heavy, and it's not too bad when we're at that side of the boat, but when we're down this side of the boat, it gets a little bit lumpy, so we've sort of tried to come up with a design that's going to make it easier to do a lot of blocks at once. So we've got a couple of the spare garage style flooring, which this flooring is amazing by the way. And then we're going to sort of slide it on top. Pull it!
Oh, come on, Sean.
Sam, it's working.
Brad whipping out that wee again when really it was Sam doing 90% of the work. This is the gap for the bilge pump, so that's why we've left this block out. But here we're going to completely fill on the back because that's what it was loaded out like when we pulled the floor up, so there must be a reason for it. So let's fill these bays completely. I'm guessing it comes down to surface area as the back is larger. That is the first section completely filled. By our calculations, could be wrong, but they might be right. We've got 28 blocks left to go in to make up our 72 blocks, and we're going to share them out equally between the 4 lots of bays that we've got left. This is where you'll see all of the spare rubber that we've put down. That way, when it is in the water, if we need to adjust anything, the rubber's already down so we can move them.
Oh, as easy as that, all the blocks are in.
He almost sounds like he's being sarcastic, and it was actually quite a difficult job to move 72 concrete blocks into the bilge of the boat.
Brad's done his usual and disappeared, so me and Sam are going to put the floor down.
Don't worry mate, you'll get used to it. Brad is quite the slippery little fellow. So while Brad's slipping and sliding somewhere who knows where, Ben and Sam get all of the balls loaded back into the boat. It's like that's the only piece I actually help with. Ben and Sam have got all of the boards in and laid them out into their rough positions. Now we're going to go back through and screw them all down. And because there's no I in team, we did this job together and it made it very, very easy. I think this took us about 10 minutes, but when you're doing it by yourself, everything seems to take quite a lot longer. So we fixed down the boards on the 4 corners, so this is how it was before we painted the bottom. Now what we're doing, or when I say we, Ben is going through piloting some new screws, so we're having extras in the middle, but we're not going to be putting the screws in until we've finalised our ballast, and we're not doing that until we're on the water. As well as these, we've actually got an additional bracket that's going to be going on the ends.
Another job on the boat that we've got to tackle is a second coat on the bottom of the boat in the black. Before we do that, we've got to protect the anodes underneath, and I'm only doing it because we've got help from Sam.
Who wants to see a magic trick? Here's Brad disappearing when all of the work needs to be done. So now that Brad's vanished, Sam gets on with protecting our anodes, but he's only protecting the centre section. The tabs can be painted.
So for the base coat, we're using the high performance marine gloss base, and all you need to do is put the activator in here and mix it for 2 minutes.
Place your bets in the comments now if Brad's actually gonna paint with this paint once it's mixed, or is he gonna fob this off?
That is the paint fully mixed up. We're gonna get the second coat on.
Whoops, you guessed it, Brad's disappeared again. So lucky for us, Sam was here for the whole day like an absolute legend, and he jumped under the boat to get the second coat on.
So with the anodes, what we're doing, we're just gonna run around quickly, give it a quick coat, paint the boat, and then hopefully by the time that goes touch dry, we can give that bit of metal there another coat.
So although we're not painting the actual anode, we can paint the weld-on tabs, because those parts are not the sacrificial section, it's only the middle. So once the middle is in the water, that part is going to reduce the rust that will occur on your narrowboat. Second coat is now done on the bottom of the boat. We're now moving on to a job that I've been looking forward to, and I'm sure you lot have been waiting for, and that is we're putting in the windows. Yep, this part is going to completely transform the look of our boat, and of course it's Caldwell's windows.
So I'm going to show you a little bit later how these windows come apart, but right now we need to check the frames to see if they fit in the holes that Phil made. I didn't make the holes, because if I made the holes, they're definitely not going to fit. Oh, they don't fit! Oh, hey, they fit! Now we just
Good does that look? I ain't got a clue because I'm inside.
Barry, you impressed we cut the holes right?
I'm very impressed.
Well, that's like step one to success.
The clips locate inside, clip in, screw behind the steel. Phil's now got to notch all the timbers so we can get the clips in and screw behind the steel.
Unfortunately, this part wasn't passed on to me by Brad, but luckily it's not too much of a big deal. We can just multi-tool the sections out, and because we've used adhesive on our battens, we haven't got to worry about them going anywhere. And as well as the battens, we're also doing the insulation. What Barry's told me, so Brad's keeping him busy out there, probably boring him with useless facts, is 3 clips for each side. So we've done the 3 through the timber, and we're also clearing the insulation, and we're having 4 because obviously that's the longer run on our windows. Some of you eagle-eyed viewers might have noticed I'm not actually measuring the positions of the cutouts, and that's because this system is very universal. The clips can slide around left and right, so as long as you place them roughly, it will still work.
We'll get the first window prepped with this waterproof sealing tape, which is the first application that we do around the window. So you always put the top on first, full piece, so you've got no gaps in it.
This is actually only one step of the sealing process. It also requires a bead of sealant, but we're not doing that right now, and we'll explain why a bit later. But for now, Barry goes round and installs all of the tape.
Okay, so that's the first one prepped up. So we'll check them in each hole.
We're going to dry fit.
There you go.
Barry, how's the window number 2 coming along?
Number 2, perfect. That's okay, that'll go in. That's definitely a tighter one though.
Window number 3, 4.
That one fits.
Window number 5, does it fit? Window number 6. Does it fit?
I'm getting nervous. Of course it fits. I cut the holes out. So while I was finishing up all of the cutting out inside, Barry was trying to teach Brad how to tape up the windows, but as you can see, after one go, I think he got a little bit bored and just took back over and got the job done, and that was all of the frames prepared.
Okay, windows are all prepped. Let's get them in. Clip this way round. Just locate it in. Clip it into place. Make sure that the gap is even, sort of top and bottom.
You may be waiting for some more complicated steps, but that really is as easy as it gets. You put your clips in and you tighten down the screws, and as Barry made it very clear, you do not full send these. You need to set the torque on your drill, otherwise you might risk stripping the screws, and that's how quick it is. While we're installing these, we're actually going to be removing them again. So this is sort of a temporary install because we have a little plan down the road which you will see. So we're just going to start putting in a few clips because there's no point putting them all in just to remove them all again. Okay. It may seem a bit of a waste of time to install them only to take them back out again, but we wanted to make sure they all fitted and they all operated before we finally install them in the future video.
We're already 3/4 of the way fitted and they go in really easy.
They really do. Really, I think once you've done one, you could definitely install these by yourself. But of course, it is nice to have Barry there or even one of the team to do it for you. So another little thing that Barry told me, which I actually didn't know, so I tried to take the glass out through the top. The way you're meant to do it is how he's feeding these in. So you'll see on the next one, you go up from the bottom and then you look, oh look, he's giving us another demonstration. So you come up and then you lock the bottom in because obviously you've only got so much height in your boat.
Full vent.
Oh mate.
Small vent.
Now I've been shown how to install the glass properly, not trying to get it out the top, we're going to go through and install all of our glass, all the while making sure they operate, just in case for some strange reason one of them doesn't. But of course they all operated as they should. And as well as the sides, don't forget we've got two of the smaller windows in the bow, or as I like to call it, the front of the boat.
That is all the windows installed. Part 1, which was the upgrade we really liked, which was the Skylight. The only problem is the glass weighs an absolute ton, and me and Phil got to get it from here and Barry up there.
I can't stress enough how much this small section of glass weighed. It was quite difficult to get it up and over the top of your head, but of course we managed it and it was on the roof.
Okay, so we're going to do the prep to bond the unit
into the hole
in the boat. So first thing we've got to do is just wipe off any sort of dust, and then we use a cleaner to clean the surface. Then we'll put a primer on to go on the unit, and then we'll do the same on the actual hole itself.
For those of you who have ever had a replacement windscreen, this is very similar. So you have to clean the area, use a primer that dries very quickly, and you have to prime both surfaces, as you can see here, and then you apply a very thick adhesive. So these windows are fully bonded in. Once they're in, they shouldn't be removed. A little thing that we've done off camera, we've ground the paint off the inside of this. We wasn't gonna, but we've got to trim the inside and we're going to be sticking it to the frame. And I'm a bit worried that the adhesive won't...
It's too shiny.
Yeah, this is like so slippery. So I just thought we just took the bit of paint off, and I think it's a good idea. We're doing it now. Once the glass is in, you're not doing anything. Another thing to note is the weight of this glass. Obviously, it's going to be heavier on this end of the boat, but don't worry, we have thought about that. We used to have a cast iron log burner, and now that that's removed, this is sort of replacing that weight. So we should still be sitting correctly once it's all installed. So now that it's all ready to go, so it's got its lovely neat line, we've got a, because it's got like a little recess if you look at that. So that goes inside the boat. So we're going to flip it, put our suction cups on, and... Yep, that is a technical term. This window will not be fully bonded until it goes. And to get in, we're using a couple of little suction pads, And I don't know if I'm the only one, but I never really trust these things. I always think that they're just going to randomly pop off. But luckily, they didn't. Next challenge. Who can pick the boat up with one of these?
Yeah.
The windows are in and they look stunning. And don't forget, you can win this boat for just £5 and you get the windows. Don't forget, you get the windows with it. You get everything with it. And as well as the boat, there's also about 100 instant prizes still available. All you have to do is head over to UK Carp Tech, or you can click the link that's in the description. We've got another little job inside, and that is to do with this stuff. I won't tell you what for yet. So what we're going to be doing is installing these little batons, and I'll show you where now. Whoa, welcome to inside the boat. Magical. So these batons are going to be going yeet for two reasons. First reason is when we ply out our walls, you have to put a joining strip over the gaps. So imagine a gap, we put a little strip. On most boats, these line up. So you've got a nice strip all the way around. On our boat, it doesn't line up. So some people might let that slide, but on my boat, that's not happening. So the counter battens are going to allow us to line our joints up. Second reason, when we add our lighting, ta-da, we want them to be flush with the panels that we're putting up, so that void's going to allow us to do that, and it's also going to give us space to run all of our cabling up and down the boat. And because we're modernising this boat, there's going to be quite a lot of cables, so this space is going to be very, very helpful.
When you're installing any wood, you should always put a pilot in it because it will split. That's what Phil's doing.
A man of endless knowledge. So with our pilot holes in our timber, we start to attach it, making sure it's as flat as we can possibly get it to the previous batons that we installed. And now that is our void created. We chose to go with 4 batons, so one either side of our skylight, the same gap all the way through, and one on each edge. Our thinking is that way we're going to keep as much of that nice curve as we possibly can.
And for the people that's going to say that we're losing height, this is only 15 millimeters, and what people usually do with narrowboats, they run the cables up and just crush them against the plier. That is not future-proofing a boat. So if anyone wants to change any light fittings, we've got enough space to literally pull the cables out and put new lights in.
More valuable information shared. We get the last of our batons installed at the bow of our boat.
We got a very exciting part of the boat because we're going to start doing the first fix electrics.
And I've come up with this ingenious idea. So I'm screwing through a zip tie like this, and then, let me show you. You put the zip tie up, I'm leaving about that much, and then we screw through the zip tie like this. Oh! When the trunking comes through, I can wrap around it, zip, and it'll hold up in the sky.
Mate, we don't mess around here.
I am so smart. With that idea thought of, me and Adam put it into practice and put a row of zip ties on both sides. We're going to cut this to length because it's got to finish here. And then we'll be coming out with our cables because we think it'll be easier to put the cables in first and bring it in as a whole thing. Adam is from Allco Lighting, so Adam and Lee are going to be installing LEDs on our boat, so you're going to see that lighting system later on. That is why he's helping us do the first fix, to make sure we get the correct cables in the correct place. But one thing I can say, this lighting is going to be very, very special.
Well, we're going to jump on and start installing the other side.
The lighting layout that we've chose for our boat requires a run on each side. That way we've got easy access to the cables. So me and Adam get that run in the same way we did the first one. And that is the first fix for the lighting complete. All the lighting cables are in. Unfortunately, that is all we've got time for in this video. So,
I will see you later.
that's not your bit, that's my bit. I will see you later.
Just remember, you can win this boat for just £5 per ticket. Link is in the description below. I love you. Bye.
Little bit of wood, so I'm going to...
Go ambulance.